Sure. Well, welcome everybody. And today I am pleased to introduce our distinguished guest speakers today, Harry Reaver, who is the Director of Six Sigma for the International Institute of Learning. Harry is an expert in process improvement and project management methodologies. With his extensive experience in Six Sigma, he'll be sharing valuable insights on enhancing project efficiency and effectiveness. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Harry Reaver.
Wow, thanks, Dominique. Distinguished. Feeling pretty good today.
Glad I could
That's
help.
awesome. Yeah. All right, you guys, give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen and we will get going. I hope you have your seatbelts on. I'm going to go nice and fast. It's going to be pretty good. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I think, Harry, I was supposed to mention that we're going to save questions till the end. So you can put them in the chat and we'll catch up to you at the end.
Sure, that sounds
Okay.
great. Very good. Well, first of all, I'm really happy to have the chance to chat with you guys. It's a fun topic, and I'm going to go through, you know, how to think about improving results at any business and really what a green belt's role is with that. And we can also talk about, because I'm a big fan of project management, of course, obviously, as well, the similarities and differences between project managers and green belts, if anybody's interested in that. And I'll try to touch on that along the way. So there's your humble correspondent. Look, got my Harry Potter scar there. Harry Potter. Sorry, I always do that. I got a big screen right there. I can do that on. So my name is Harry Reaver. Reaver spelled backwards is still Reaver, like Taco Cat. I'm located in Dallas, actually, and I've been doing the process improvement work for a long time, over 30 years. I just love it. I love projects and working with people, and in particular, I like working on efforts to try to take some key measure that you care about, and you're trying to move that up or down depending on what it is. We want to increase customer satisfaction, order accuracy, sales. Maybe we don't want to decrease defects or mistakes or rework or processing time. And it's kind of fun if you can work with a group and make something like that happen. My wife, Lynn, is a physical therapist. And she and I have 3 children, 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Our youngest, our daughter, Rachel, is a senior at Texas Tech University. She graduates next month, and she's going to go into PA school. She wants to become a physician assistant. So lucky me, 3 more years of school. It never ends. It never ends. Anyway, very happy to be here. So and I'm not much of a slide reader, by the way. Now, one thing I probably should have mentioned in my intro, I've been doing this stuff a long time, and I teach and have taught all kinds of courses on project management and Six Sigma, yellow belt certifications, green belt, black belt classes and certifications. So over the years, I've worked with, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, probably 700, maybe 800 projects. Because they're not all my projects. They're people that are getting certified in every kind of industry. And because I'm a Six Sigma guy, that means I'm kind of a spreadsheet guy. I keep up with my training, and between webinars or presentations like this or classes, there's been over 100,000 people in these training sessions over the years. So the reason I'm sharing that with you is I've seen a lot of stuff that works, and I've seen what doesn't work, and I've probably made every mistake there is to make when it comes to working on projects and trying to improve results. So I'm going to try to share some of that insight with you, and you'll see probably why I'm pretty excited about the Green Belt certification, as well as just process improvement in general, because every company cares about improving results. So we'll go through these topics, we'll blast through them, and see what kind of questions you have at the end. So when you think about quality, how can a company stay in business if they have poor quality product or service? I mean, you're not going to get any repeat business. You're not going to get any referrals. You're not going to get any additional sales. It's over. So quality is absolutely imperative, no matter what you do. How many of you have been to a restaurant and you had bad service? And if you're like me, you're like, well, I'm not going back there. I'm terrible that way. You know, I just won't go back if it's bad experience, or whether it's a product or service. It's the same kind of thing. I think most people are kind of like that. Maybe you give places a leeway a little bit, but once you've been burned once or twice, it's over. And if we don't think about continually improving results, because it's all about continuous improvement, then how can you have good quality? How can you have satisfied customers? So one of the questions is it more expensive or less expensive to produce a high quality product or service? And when and I think that's kind of a rudimentary or question, it's kind of a basic question. And the answer is it doesn't really depend. Um, when you start thinking about cost of poor quality, external failures, internal failures, rework, corrective actions, warranties, customer complaints, all that kind of stuff, it adds up. You can't inspect quality in either. Now, there's nothing wrong with inspection, but it's just, that's not how you improve results. Inspection is part of it, but the answer is you have to have processes that don't result in things that take too long, or that, you can't make a mistake or an error. And if you have existing processes, you want to continually work on them and improve them. And the way you do that is you go through these DMAIC steps, which we're going to walk through here in a minute. And that's what a green belt's trained on. It's a continuous improvement mindset. And the way you improve results is you improve the process. And I say this, and I have quite a strong opinion on this. Now, I won't argue with anybody. I promise you, I'm a pretty nice guy. However, I will say this. Companies everywhere, and I believe me, I worked with every kind of industry you can think of. It doesn't matter where you work. People love to fight fires and manage through targets and reactive management. Something is wrong, it's red on the scorecard or dashboard, and they react to it. And to have proactive upstream metrics is difficult. To manage the process is difficult. We're just not conditioned to manage that way. We manage by results. A green belt is all about fixing the process so the results are where you want them to be. Now, if you've ever had a product or service that's defect free or is high quality, it makes an impact. And by the way, it doesn't have to be something that's super expensive. If you ever had a pair of jeans or a item of clothing or a tool or something you've had forever, it's like, hey, it still works. It's great. I love it. Or maybe the opposite. You have something that's quite expensive and it's like, that didn't work out. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. My wife and I just replaced our refrigerator, and the ice maker wasn't working for a long time, but the fridge was great. And we'd have it, this year in November, we'll be celebrating our 34th year of marriage. So it's been great. And we've had it, and literally last year we replaced the refrigerator. It's the same refrigerator we got when we got married. It's 30 years old, still worked great. But you know how it is with appliances these days. None of them last. They're only built to last for a few years, it seems like. The quality's gone down. So once you find something that works, it really makes an impression. Now, you've probably heard of CTQ before, and one of the things I really like about Six Sigma, and I think most project leaders or managers understand this concept as well. It's really all about the customer. Who are our customers, and what do they care about? What's critical to quality to them? And generally, it's something pretty straightforward. I want something done quickly. I want it done accurately. When I order something, I want it to be what I actually ordered. If there's a problem, I want to talk to a human being and I want it corrected. I'd like people to be polite. Whatever it is, customers are going to tell you what they're expecting. And then our job is to figure out, how do we make sure we're meeting those needs? And we need to do that through measurement. We've got to link what's important to the customer through measurement. I like to measure a lot of things. Does anybody here track anything? I like to track a lot of stuff. I'm a bit over the top. I will admit that, but of course, most people probably track their miles per gallon for their cars, but I've been tracking how often I work out and exercise for 20 something years. I've made a goal. I'm like, I want to exercise at least 4 or 5 times a week. So I track that, how many books I read. I've always had a goal to track or to have, read 1 book a month, 12 a year, which is not very much for some people, but for me, that's a lot. And I've been tracking that for 30 years. I actually have been tracking my food for a long time. My doctor years ago, on a checkup said, "Oh, I think your cholesterol is a little too high." It was like, I don't know, 210 or something. It wasn't terrible, but I'm like, I'll show him. So I went back, made a spreadsheet, and had a bunch of columns for every kind of food you can think of. Potato chips, cookies, chicken, beef, whatever it is. And I started tracking it. And I would say, all right, I'm not going to have ice cream, or I'm not going to do this or that. And after, I had to go back after a few months, and my cholesterol went down significantly. He's like, how'd you do that? I said, I made a spreadsheet. I still keep up with it. Now, I mention this because when you're trying to improve results, a big portion of that, as you'll see in a little bit, is about metrics and data collection. And what you find most of the time is people are resistant to collecting data or measuring stuff. Right? That's too hard. It takes too long. And my point is, you can measure anything. You can if you want to. So a green belt is trained in the importance of data collection, accurate data, and metrics. How do we measure the process the right way? Because ultimately, it's all about y is a function of x. That's the answer. Does anybody remember the ultimate answer? I bet you do. It's probably, did anybody come up with 42? Maybe you can put that in chat if you know what I'm talking about. For us, for process improvement connoisseurs, the answer is y is a function of x. Y is our key measure. That's what we want to improve. And how do we do that? We find the x's are the process measures that drive to or explain the y. To improve results, we focus on the process. So green belts are trained about process thinking. And that's really what the focus of Lean Six Sigma is about. So some people say, well, what is Six Sigma and what is Lean and what's the difference? And to me, it's kind of like your toolbox. Everybody has a toolbox, right? And your toolbox, I have a set of metrics, wrenches, and I have a set of screwdrivers and pliers and this and that. Well, you want to use whatever you need for the project at hand. I'm not a fan of people that say, well, I'm lean. We're going to do lean. Let's do lean. We're a lean company. And that's fine. But that's just one set of tools. You want to use any tool that will help you. So lean is all about process improvement, process focus, eliminating steps that don't add value, making sure it's difficult, if not impossible, to make mistakes. So you do some data analysis in there, but not as much. It's all about process tools. Failure modes, effects analysis, things like that. Six Sigma is about reducing variability. It's about reducing defects. Now, you're still going to do process mapping and flow charts and stuff too, but you're probably going to do a little more data analysis and statistics. You want to do both of those. And believe me, I've been doing this a long time. You don't have to be a statistician or a mathematician to do Six Sigma. And it's not, for the record, I want to say rigorous. There is a rigor around improving results, but it's very flexible. I think there's a misnomer out there that, oh, this stuff's only for manufacturing. Well, I don't have a manufacturing background. Everything's a process. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's a process. So you can apply this to anything. And it's very flexible and allows you to be creative and innovative, because once you find out where there's a problem, then you can come up with creative and innovative solutions and changes to see if that will actually impact results. It allows teams to be more creative. It allows project leaders to use different tools to pull things out of people. That's what's kind of cool about it. Now, I know it seems maybe cliche to say this, but there is still an issue out there about silos. Companies, especially big companies, have a silo mentality. They just do. It doesn't matter what the leaders say. We need to break down silos. There's still silos out there. It's just kind of ingrained. When you think about processes, though, processes cut across departments. They cut across silos. Customers don't care about silos. Their process goes through what they need goes through several processes. So Six Sigma folks work on cross-functional teams that have to cut across silos, which means you're going to need, project sponsors and leadership support to improve results. So let's get into organizational quality. This is what should happen. It's kind of a little depiction here. We have a process, and it should be pretty smooth. Boop-a-doop-a-doop. Everything's fine. Everything works. No problems, no mistakes, no changes. It's exactly what we want, and everybody's happy. And of course, we'd like that to happen, but the reality is that doesn't happen. It's more like this, back and forth and all around. And here we go, and band-aid fixes and calling a favor over here. And that department doesn't talk to this department over here. And we got to expedite this. And they change their mind over here. And that person in that department's really hard to work with. And I don't have access to the system, and on and on and on. And what ends up happening is we have a lot of workarounds. We have this hidden factory kind of thing going on. Well, if you have processes like this, and most companies have some that are similar to this, then that's where a greenbelt would come in with a project to try to smooth it out, to try to make it more like this. So another way to look at that is we'd like to have a straightforward process that's concise, where every step is important. But the reality is a lot of times we have tons of back and forth. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not complex processes out there. Don't get me wrong. There certainly are. But we want to try to simplify things as much as we can and make sure that every step is adding value. So if you have processes in your company that need work, that are complex, that error out, that have opportunities for failure, or there's just too many steps and the steps take too long sometimes, these are the kind of things that a greenbelt would work on with a cross-functional team. I will tell you this. Here's a hot sports opinion for you. I bet everybody would agree with this statement. My experience is that companies, and I'm not here to blast anybody, I'm just giving you food for thought. I think project managers in general, whatever title you've got, are just underappreciated most of the time in companies. Don't you think? Don't you agree? Hey, there's got a problem like this. Just get a group together and go fix that. Like, yeah, that's really easy to do. You have to have the kind of demeanor and skill set and ability to work with a lot of people, to understand the different tools, to push a team forward, get them to work together, to overcome roadblocks with little or no authority. That is not easy to do. Now, a greenbelt has to be able to do all that, just like a project manager. But on top of that, a greenbelt has to know how to improve results. They have to know how to use these different kinds of quality tools as well. I always say a project management teaches you how to manage projects. Lean Six Sigma teaches you how to improve results. There's a difference there. There's some overlap, but there is a bit of a difference. So Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma is about the customer. We mentioned that. What do they care about? Well, they care about what they care about, which is, pretty straightforward generally. It's about focusing on continuous improvement and quality. And do we have, products and services that work correctly without any mistakes? And are we continuously trying to improve results? Can we continuously take metrics that we care about, business metrics, customer metrics, and make them better? And sometimes what you find, you just do, is people are like, well, we're okay with those results. It's okay. And, while competition's out there or technology changes, it should be a continuous improvement mindset. I already drew my little check marks. Now, here's the deal. Here's the dealio. People oftentimes, and I mean oftentimes, confuse activity with results. Okay, what does that mean? We can do a lot of stuff. We can have a lot of action items. We can have a lot of meetings. We can implement a bunch of stuff. But the question is, does it make a difference? And how do you know if it makes a difference? You know if it makes a difference if you're measuring something and that metric that you care about actually has a process shift and sustained improvement. Otherwise, we're doing things, but it's not resulting in improved performance. So we got to link things to metrics. Now, here's the rub. Most ideas, improvement ideas, don't help. And I'm not trying to be negative here. Intuitively, you and I, we all know this. Because if it was easy to improve, we would always improve. We wouldn't even be on this call. Every metric would be going in the right direction because we had a meeting, talked about it, and implemented it. Woo, everything works. But it doesn't work that way. And how come it doesn't work that way? Well, because processes are complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. Because, and here's the real reason, there's variation in everything. And any change that we make, any improvement, any corrective action, whatever you want to call it, solution has to overcome the variability in the process for you to differentiate it to see if it works or not. In other words, we got to separate the signal from the noise in the process. So a lot of ideas, improvement ideas, don't actually work. About 25% of ideas actually help. About 50% don't make any difference. And about 25% of improvement ideas actually make things worse. So you can leave this webinar today, this overview, knowing the next time you're in a meeting, you're on a call, and everybody's trying to solve the problem, you can kick up your feet and go, ha, 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 give the evil laugh. Ha, 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 ha. 75% of those items won't work, and they'll look at you like you're crazy. But it's the truth. So our goal, and what a green belt should learn how to do, our goal is simple. It's to implement what works and don't implement what doesn't work. That's it. Implement what works and don't implement what doesn't work, which means that your project is about figuring out which of the ones do work. Well, how do you do that? That's where the analysis and the tests and the pilots and experiments and things like that come into play. Now, a green belt is going to follow the DMAIC steps: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, which is no different than, plan, do, check, act, and, various other acronyms that companies have come up with. This is how you improve processes. So if a green belt is going through training, they're going to learn these steps right here. Because if you get a bunch of people together, they're all going to have their own approach. Oh, we use agile over here, project management, waterfall. Oh, I like design practice over here. I'm a plan, do, check, act guy. DMAIC, I could go on and on. We could come up with 100 different ways of doing things, and we're all over the place. Or we might not even agree on what the problem is to begin with. So what the DMAIC steps allow you to do is have a consistent approach on how to go about improving things. Now, it doesn't mean every project's going to have the exact same tools and steps or items under each step. You want to use the tools that are appropriate for your situation, but this is your roadmap, your cookbook. This is the recipe that you follow on how to improve things. So you don't really have to have, the answer. I've worked with all kinds of different industries. I have no idea how to improve their results. I don't know what they do, and I wouldn't pretend to know. However, I know that if we get the right people on the team and I can lead them through these steps, we can take some metric they care about and make it better. There's no question about that. It can happen. And I don't think anybody, and I challenge you, not right this second, but in the questions, I challenge you to tell me which of these steps, if you're in a process improvement project, are not necessary. So let's go through it and define, what do you do? Well, every project manager knows, well, we got to set our project up for success. We need to have a sponsor, a charter, a problem statement, make sure we have the right scope, get the right authority, have a good cross-functional team, a kickoff meeting or call. We got to do all that kind of stuff and other things too. That's necessary. Well, what are we trying to improve? What's our key measure or measures? What are our process measures? Are they defined? Is the data accurate? How are we going to gather the data? Let's get the baseline to see where we're coming from. So let's have some charts. We need to do that. A lot of teams skip that. Well, we need to dig in deep. We need to find out what's causing the problems. Why do we have defects or mistakes, or why are we late? So we want to do some root cause analysis, a fishbone chart, 5 why analysis, that kind of thing. Now we're getting a bunch of clues for improvement here, so that when we get to improve, we can try out our ideas, we can see what works, and try to shift that key measure that we care about up or down. And if we're able to do that, then we want to maintain the gains in the control step with a good control plan. We don't want this thing drifting back to the way it used to be. So what I like about these, there's only 5 of them. Easy to remember, pretty straightforward. A challenge that we deal with is people get together and they just skip to improve. They just try to solve the problem, or they're told to solve the problem. Don't make this a science experiment. Just go implement the easy stuff. And we expect that to happen, but it doesn't work that way. We got to dig in. So up front, we're thinking about, why are we working on this? Who are our customers? We want to see where we're coming from. We want to get to the root cause, dig in deep, not treat a symptom. We want to see if we can actually have a sustained improvement over time and then maintain the gains. The green belt learns how to do all that kind of stuff. That's what's the benefit of being a green belt. Now, why is it hard to improve? Like I just said, processes are complicated. Maybe we're not measuring it the right way. Maybe we don't have leadership support. We just kind of assume our ideas will work. I mean, how could they not work? Somebody came up with them, and the person that came up with each idea is a smart person. They're a contributor. They're a leader. They're an engineer, whatever it might be. Most people don't know what ideas will work. Now, why in the world would I say something like that? Because I have literally over 1,000 people predicting what will work and what won't work before we actually test it and try it out. Over like 20 years, I get people to predict, and their ability to predict accurately what will work and what won't work was 26.3%. 26%. Even if you don't agree with those numbers, just double it. Right half the time, wrong half the time. That's not very good. In other words, green belts are trained on fact-based decision making. We need to base decisions on facts and data. Now, here's our process thinking. We have stuff coming in. We do something with it. So this could be incoming calls, raw materials, a request for service, a phone call, a call into a help desk, a transaction, an order. We do something. Now, this could be you doing several steps, or these could be different departments. And then things come out the other side. Now, we might hand them off to the next department or group, or maybe it's a shipment to a customer, whatever it is. This is what happens. Now, these metrics out here, we generally are pretty good at measuring. What's our overall processing time? What's our delivery time? How many defects or mistakes do we have? These are our key measures, or our whys, and they are by definition after the fact. So those are lagging metrics, right? What we want to be able to measure is we want to be able to measure the steps. What's our processing time for each step, or our yield, or our defect rate, or whatever it might be that we care about? Our compliance to following procedures. What about our suppliers or our inputs? Let's measure those, because these are the knobs that you turn to affect those key measures. So if you want to fix this key measure right here, what I would tell you is don't try to fix that key measure. Like, what? What? What you talking about, Willis? What are you talking about? This measure is too big. If you want to fix this metric, you got to find the metrics over here that relate to it to drive that metric. That's the X's that we focus on. These are the leading metrics. Now, let's use a generic example. Let's say that somebody's trying to, get healthy, or maybe you're trying to lose weight, or maybe you're trying to improve your cholesterol levels or blood pressure, or whatever it is. You're trying to get healthier. Well, you're measuring, let's say, your weight every day or every week, but what are you doing to try to influence that? Well, maybe you're counting the number of steps you have per day, or how often you go to the gym, or how often you eat fruits and vegetables, or whatever it is. Those are the knobs that you turn to affect the weight. This is what we need to measure. That data is hard to get sometimes. So green belts are taught about process thinking and about the importance in the measure step of going upstream and measuring process steps. This is hard to do because, well, our systems don't talk to each other. That's not in the system. That would require manual tracking or whatever it might be. It's difficult, but this is the key to improving things. Now, you set your project up early in the define step. You've got a good problem statement. What is it that we're working on? What's the problem? How often does it happen? What's the impact when it does happen? You have a charter. Project managers know about that. Got to know what we're working on. Having a formal kickoff meeting with the sponsor saying, hey, this is an important project, and here's why it is. And this green belt or project manager has the authority they need to run the project. And then you start mapping it out, SIPOC diagram, and so on, working with your team through the steps. What a green belt learns And what I like about it when they're leading these projects is how to be a better project leader and how to involve the team. And you do that by getting the team involved in using the various tools under each step. Oh, we need to do an as-is flow chart or process map. We need to do some root cause analysis discussions. We need to develop a control plan. We need to, graph some data, or whatever it might be. Do a SIPOC diagram. You're having the team work with you on that. So from a business perspective, you got to think about, all right, well, each department does stuff, or each group or organization, and what are their processes and what are their key measures and where should they focus? Because everybody should be working on continuous improvement efforts. From a project team perspective, now we're going to try to improve maybe some key measure. Hey, we're going to work on this key measure right here. And this director that's over that department is going to sponsor the team to make that metric get better. So now the team is going to work on that metric, which is this one right here. So they got to break it on down. They got to look at the process that's given them those results and start measuring the process, mapping out the process, figuring out where in the process there's problems and coming up with solutions. So you're leading a team through the improvement effort following the DMAIC step roadmap. Every metric should have operational definitions associated with it. You could ask people, I challenge you guys to do this today or sometime this week. Ask people that you work with or departments, hey, is our data accurate? Is our data good? And see what they say. They'll either say one of two things. They'll say, well, no, it's not, or I don't know if it is or isn't. That should be kind of scary to you if you don't even know if the data is complete or accurate. Or they'll say, most likely, yeah, it's pretty accurate. And then if they do say that, which is good, you can say, oh, how do you know it's accurate? Can you show me how you verified the data is accurate? And then they'll look at you like, what? What are you talking about? How do you know? How do you know people are using the right fields? How do you know when they're entering things or the right codes? How do you know that that people are measuring things the right way? So think of a measurement system study. So a lot of times where I'm going with this is we're using existing data. It might not be indicative of what's actually happening. And we're basing decisions on data that's not complete or accurate or reflective of what's really happening. But doggone it, we don't have time to mess with that. We just got to implement something. So a green belt has got to fight. You got to fight for the right to party. Sorry, I had to go there. Anybody remember that song? A green belt's got to persevere, and push for accurate data. That's part of the measure step. Okay, so again, are people measuring things the same way or not? Do you know if the process is measured correctly? Which might mean you need a measurement system study. Now, not everything needs to be complicated. Not everybody has to have a fancy gauge R&R study, but I would spend some time making sure the data is complete and accurate. Now we're going to get into root cause analysis. We've set our project up. We've got the right metrics. We've got a good as-is flowchart map. Now we want to analyze things, and we want to analyze the process and the data. Okay, both of those guys. Now, what happens a lot, you got to watch out for this. It's very easy to be a dashboard quarterback. Oh, our system is showing all this data. Click, click, click. Give me that chart. Give me that chart. Go do this. And we're just sitting there looking at this system that's spitting out the charts, so you can click on it and select the different filters. Can anybody relate to that? And that's good. I'm not suggesting that data is not helpful. That's part of this. But you also have to understand the process. Where in the process do we have problems? Which handoffs are giving us issues? Which steps don't add value? Which steps could fail? That stuff is not in a system. This is the lean side of the equation. So a green belt understands that, hey, if we want to improve things, we got to look at both of these. So we're comparing groups, days of the week, locations, shifts, whatever it is. We're looking at the big hitters, Pareto analysis. We're looking at process maps and digging in with a fishbone chart or a Chicago diagram, whatever you want to call it. We're involving the subject matter experts might have several root cause discussions so everybody has their opportunity to participate and share their thoughts. Then, you know, and again, when you're doing root cause, you're not jumping to solutions. Really, what you're doing is finding out where or why we have problems. The solutions piece comes in the improve step where we match solutions to each root cause. Now, if you have some corrective actions, because you don't want things to drift back, you'll see a slide on that in a minute, to where they used to be. You need to make sure that, hey, this corrective action or this change, we're implementing, do people still follow that? Is there adherence to it going forward? That would be a new metric. A lot of times we implement things. This is a common mistake or common issue, challenge. And hey, we did a good job. We improved things, and then things go back to the way they used to because, we're not following the new procedures very well anymore. So when you get to the improve step, we've listed our root causes. So now we're going to have a solution or a change or whatever it might be matched up with each of the root causes. Now, here's a mistake you want to avoid. And green belts understand this, or they're taught this. They should be. It's not good enough just to vote on things. Hey, we're voting on the ideas we like. We don't have any data. It's just opinions, so that's not good. Well, we're going to weight them. We're going to weight our ideas. And here's the ones that have the biggest, score because of the weighting scheme. We'll implement those. Well, you still don't have any data. You don't know whether those ideas will actually work or not. So you still want to pilot and test those to make sure that the changes you're making actually do work before you have full-scale implementation. This is a hard thing to do because people always are pushing. I'm sure you can relate to this for instant results, quick results. So a pilot, and I'll just use that as a generic term, is almost like a project within a project, a mini project, because we want to show that there's a before and after. This will make it to where it's hard not to implement. This will show that you're adding value. This will show that we're better off by this following this new set of procedures or this new process than we were the old way. We have a shift. We have less variability. If you can do this, then you are not only helping your company, but you're by adding value, but you're showing how value added you are as an individual. Green belts are taught how to go about doing this. And that doesn't mean it happens every time, but I've seen people that have never done any kind of project work, process improvement work. They don't even know how to make charts in Excel. And I've seen them do shifts like this even better than this. And the reason why is because they're not stuck in a certain way of doing things. They just follow the recipe, follow the DMAIC steps, and it seems to work out. That's what a green belt's taught to do. Now, here's what I was saying earlier. I bet people can relate to this. Let's say you have a team and you do a great job. Hey, we went from down there to there. Great. And then you go off and work on the next assignment, next project, and, things kind of drift back. And here we are again a year or 2 years later working on the same issue. We want to avoid that from happening. And that is what the control step and the DMAIC steps is all about. The control step is having a good control plan to ensure that we maintain and sustain the gains, which might include training, continual tracking, that kind of thing. So process thinking, process improvement, continuous improvement, it's really it's not, oh, this person's certified. It's really a way of thinking. It's a way of managing. It's a way of leading. You're involving people in decisions that affect them. You have cross-functional teams. You're basing decisions on facts and data. You're working on things and departments and groups and processes that are important, of strategic importance to the company, and you're showing measurable improvement. Tell me how that is not crucial for every single company that's out there. So a green belt is somebody that is a project manager, so to speak, a process improvement project manager. They're trained in a bunch of tools, process improvement tools, lean tools, quality tools. All these tools, or not all of them, but most of them are the same ones that are in Chapter 8 of the PMBOK. Is Chapter 8 still the quality chapter? I know they updated the PMBOK now and then. I always say chapter 8. I guess I should verify it's still chapter 8. And again, a green belt needs to be somebody that likes working with people. You don't have to be, Joe engineer, that's doing calculus, and you don't want to be somebody that's scared of an Excel spreadsheet. You want to be somebody that is okay with some analysis, good with working with people, that's organized, kind of a well-rounded person that is comfortable facilitating teams. All right, last couple slides, and we'll go to our question and answers. So we're going to kind of summarize the benefits of process improvement. I just kind of use that term, or the green belt. 2 slides on that. So from a business perspective, a company's perspective, don't you want leaders that are trained to make good decisions based on facts and data, that have an understanding of processes, process improvement, working upstream to prevent problems from happening downstream, that understand the concept of variation? They know the difference between common cause and special cause and how to react to it. That they're linking their projects not only to what's important to the business, but also to what's important to the customer. They're getting teams involved, so people are learning, they're developing, and again, they're the experts closest to the action. So they're the ones solving the problems. Every company would benefit from people that are trained in that area. From a personal perspective, let's say you're interested in your personal development. Don't you want to be better at facilitating, communicating effectively, knowing how to make good decisions, critical thinking, problem solving skills, how to verify if the data is very accurate or not, how to lead a cross-functional team? All of those things from a personal perspective will help you in any job, no matter what you do. So it's a great way to develop. So in summary, it is not easy to improve. If it was easy, we would always improve. But it can be a lot of fun. And if you have the recipe, the roadmap, and you just kind of follow it and use the tools or techniques that are appropriate for your situation, and you're pushing because you're driving change, you're a change agent. By definition, you are working on something that's not where it needs to be. So therefore, we've got to make changes to make it better. That key metric needs to change. You're going to meet with resistance and pushback. But if you like a challenge, this is the kind of work that it's not for everybody. But if you like a challenge, it's a good kind of certification or job to have, if you ask me. And of course, you can add value to the company and yourself with that skill set. So I hope I finished in the right amount of time. I want to sincerely thank you for allowing me to ramble on. And before I stop sharing and throw it to questions, I wanted to show this next slide that they asked me to show, that has the PDU information. So that's right there. And I'm going to show one other slide here, that if you have any other questions, there's the IIL information in case you need to contact anybody. All right, I'll stop sharing now and throw it over to see if there's any questions or comments or thoughts on anything.
And I'll share, and I will also say that we'll have the PDU information. If you didn't capture it there, we do have it for you. So I don't see any questions that accumulated in the chat. Are there any questions? We'll just open it up. Yes. So Joe wanted to know, can you add any comments on the various certifications for Six Sigma?
Sure. So the yellow belt is really the first certification, and the yellow belt, I like it. I think it's a good place to start. You go through the DMAIC steps. The course content goes through the DMAIC steps. More at a higher level. I mean, you're still doing some analysis and stuff. There's for at least with IIL, there's an exam that you can take, and you get your IIL certification, yellow belt certification. The exam's easy. The yellow belt, at least with us, is 2 days. If you do it virtually, it's 4 3-hour sessions, so it's about 12 hours. Uh, and it really walks you through how to improve results, um, following the DMAIC steps. The green belt is next. It also follows the DMAIC steps. It's just going to do it in more detail under each step than the yellow belt. So instead of 4 3-hour sessions, the green belt 16 3-hour sessions, virtual sessions. You can also do both of those on demand at your own pace if you want to. The green belt certification has 2 exams. One's over define and measure. The second one's over analyze, improve, and control. Exams are easy, by the way. And it has a project requirement where you actually have a project, a real project in your respective area, and you're going through and applying the DMAIC steps to try to improve the key measure for your business unit. So the green belt's following the DMAIC steps and just in more depth than the yellow belt. The black belt, so the green belt's a prerequisite for the black belt. There is no prerequisite for the green belt. The black belt focuses more on a lot of statistical tools and techniques. So the assumption, the reason our green belt's a prerequisite is that, we don't reteach all that stuff that we did in the green belt. Sometimes if you did a green belt and said, I'm going to go do a black belt, it's a four-week program and you're doing all the same stuff in the green belt. It's like, I already did all that. So we've separated it. So we don't hit the DMAIC steps again. The black belt is going to focus more on some advanced statistical tools, nothing huge, but hypothesis testing, regression analysis, experiments. And there's some other modules in there too about, stakeholders and project management and stuff. But primarily it's a lot more analysis.
And here, are you familiar with other organizations that do that kind of certification? We had a question about how IIL differs from maybe ASQ or other organizations.
Well, yeah, ASQ, for example, American Society for Quality, they have certifications. You could go sign up for an ASQ exam for the yellow belt, let's say. Just go and take the exam and say, hey, I'm a certified yellow belt. Same with the green belt. Now, I'm not, and I have certifications. I have several certifications from ASQ, so I'm not criticizing it at all. But what I will tell you is, again, I've been doing this for a while. I think an important, and I bet you guys can relate to this too. Just because somebody has a quote unquote certification doesn't necessarily mean they know how to apply and use this stuff, right? It takes practice dealing with people and pushback and facilitating workshops and sessions and root cause discussions and so on. That's why the project element is really important. So the ASQ certifications, they might have some background. Hey, fill this out. Do you have enough experience? But they don't really have a project requirement. So that's just food for thought. And there are other places that have certifications. There's universities and different providers and so on, just like anything else.
Thank you. I'll put this other slide up here. Do we have any other questions for Harry, either in the chat or you can just go ahead and unmute and ask? Okay. Well, Harry, thank you so much. Great presentation. Thank you for letting us record it. Thank you for letting us share it with everybody, and we'll have this out to everybody along with the PDU information. And lots of thanks there on the chat. Let me close that. Great. Let me. So here is some of the PDU information, and this will be coming to you as well. So if you don't take a picture of it or take a screenshot here, not to worry. It'll be following up with you shortly. And that's right. Yep. Claiming your own PDUs. I think most of us know how to do that. Again, there's the PDU information. You log in and have to. It won't be recorded automatically for you. You do have to actively go ahead and document your PDUs. We do have plenty of upcoming chapter events, so please do visit the chapter website for information on upcoming events, other IIL things, and some stuff that's happening here that the chapter is producing locally. We also have plenty of social media for you to follow on. So whatever your preferred platform is, we do have some content there on those platforms. And speaking of upcoming events, please do mark your calendar for the 35th anniversary or 35th year of PMI of the local chapter of our chapter. We do have a date, we have a place, we have what we're going to do. We're just missing you. So please, mark the date, September 25th on your calendar. It'll be at the Holiday Inn in Independence in their convention center, and we're going to have a fun night of casino table games. So please mark that on your calendar. We look forward to seeing all of you there. It's an event that's 35 years in the making. And then hopefully, keeping up with your PDUs, attending this event goes a long way to doing that. There's other ways to keep up with your PDUs, some podcasts that Joe has curated here for us that may be of interest to you. And so I'll leave here for a second and have that information for you. And last but not least, Joe, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Hi, just we have our May 13th PDD at Magnet, so
Oh,
I'd
yes,
love
thank
to
you.
have you all register. I know you already mentioned it, but it's coming up in a few weeks. So if you can attend, it'll be great. Excellent speakers, raffle prizes, good food, and a tour of the Magnet facility.
Excellent.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being a part of today's event. And again, thank you, Harry. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next PMI NEO event.
All right, take care.
Thank you.